19 will be reviewing word problems that you did last year, the value word problems. Most of them coin problems. Each coin is worth a certain number of cents. But then also other kinds of things that have values, costs of things and such like that. And then we will be proving and using that property we talked about yesterday, AA implies AAA, when we're talking about the angles in two different triangles. So first let's review our word problems. This one says, not that we have 80 nickels and then some dimes, we have 80 nickels and dimes, 80 coins that are all just nickels and dimes. So we write that one down. One is just always how many coins or how many other items total we have. Then when we are doing value, we are going to use cents, not dollars. So the $6.50 means 650 cents. And that's how we're going to set these up. So we're going to say that if we figured up what all of those nickels were worth and all those dimes were worth, we'd have 650 cents. Everybody, a nickel's worth how much? 5 cents. So if you have 1 nickel, it's worth 1 times 5. If you have 2 nickels, that's worth 2 times 5. If you have 3 nickels, it's 5 times 3. 4 nickels is 5 times 4. We're not sure how many we have, but the value is 5 times however many we have. What about dimes? How much is 1 worth? 10. So 2 are worth 10 times 2. 3 are 10 times 3. We don't know how many we have, but it's 10 times however many we have. 2 equations, N and D, and both of them, that's our system. We can do substitution or elimination. You guys get to vote today. How many want to do substitution? How many? That's more than half, so we'll do this one with substitution. And so, let's see. Would I rather multiply by 5 or by 10? I don't guess it really matters. So I'll do N equals 80 minus D, which means I change this N to 80 minus D. And I still have that times 5, and plus the 10D is 650. So what is my next line going to be, McKenna?
400 minus 5D plus 10D equals 80.
I think I've still got the 650 over there on that right side.
Or
So then if I put my D's together, I have 5D. And then I want to subtract my 400 from both sides. So if 5D is 250, how many dimes do I have? And hopefully that's what I got when I did it before. Yep, so 50. It is not enough to say D equals 50. What, 50 dogs? 50 dinosaurs? 50 drivers? I don't know unless we write it out. So 50 dimes. And then we need to get N, and to do that we know that N plus D is 80. We know that D is 50, so everybody, what's N? 30. And then we label that with nickels. And to me, nickels is one of those words that's kind of weird the way it's spelled. Why is it N-I-C-K-E-L instead of L-E? English has, it seems like more words are L-E. And if you get mixed up when you're doing these, it's written right there in your problem. It's not hard at all to look at your book. It's open right there in front of you, and make sure you spell it right. You're Devlin students. You can set those standards for yourself when it's right there in front of you. At least copy it down correctly. But any questions on that one? Let's do one more value problem that is not coins. This is going to be how much do things cost. Ted, you need to copy everything down, please. So, going to go to the store. 1 rose is 12. Pence is an old kind of currency that they used to use in England. And in all honesty, I haven't been to England in forever, and I don't know after they left the EU if they've gone back to pence or if they're still using euros and all that, or what they're using these days. But it's just a kind of currency. So 1 rose would cost 12, 2 roses will cost 2 times 12, 3 roses will cost 3 times 12, and so on. That's all that that's saying. And then we've also got some daffodils, and Jim buys 35 flowers. The only choices on the flowers are roses and daffodils, so roses plus daffodils, 35 flowers. Then we want to know how much they cost. 1 rose is 12, 2 is 12 times 2. We don't know how many, so 12 times however many we have. Daffodils are 4 each, so that's 4D. And then 300 pence altogether. And let's do elimination on this since we just did substitution on the other one. You guys okay if I multiply by -4? I'd rather multiply by -4 than by -12. So if you let me multiply the top one by -4, it becomes -4R minus 4D is negative, let's see, 2 times 35 is 70 times 82 minus 140. Put those together, 8R is 160. So everybody, what is R? That was not everybody. What is R? And those are roses. So then we need our daffodils. And we know that we had 35 flowers all together. So we go back up to that original equation. R plus D is 35. But we now know that R is 20. So if 20 plus D is 35, this time everybody. What is D? Anybody with a question there? And we make sure we all. Okay, I'm going to prove AA implies AAA. We're going to use that once, whiteboards, and then we'll get some work done. So we want to prove today if we have 2 triangles. And in those triangles, we already know 2 sets of the angles match up. But that automatically means the last set of angles matches up also. So we're going to start out with a picture like what you see there. So copy that picture down with all of the labels in there. We've already marked that some of those angles are congruent. So when I do my proof, that means that the measure of angle A is the same as the measure of angle D. And the measure of angle C is the same as the measure of angle F. And that is given. But I need to show, got 2 sets of angles, I need to show that the third set of angles match up. So I need to show that the measure of angle B and the measure of angle E equal each other. That's what we're going to try to get to. So I've got a triangle on the left, got another triangle on the right. I can grab another triangle. Be similar or not. What do you know about angles in any old triangle? Raise your hands, please. What do you know? Kaylee.
All the measures of angles up.
In just one triangle, what do they add up to?
180.
Okay, in any one triangle, they're going to add up to 180. So I am going to write that down. I am going to write down that the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C is 180, and that was triangle sum. And I'm going to write down that the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle E plus the measure of angle F is also 180 by triangle sum. So what I've got there is A plus B plus C equals 180, 180 equals D plus E plus F, so all of those are the same. They're all 180. So I'm going to write down just the 2 long ones have to equal each other. the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C must be the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle E plus the measure of angle F. Now I'm going to do my substituting. I know that angle A and D have the same measure, so I'm going to change this measure of angle A to a measure of angle D because they're the same. I can use either one. And then I'm also going to say, since the measure of C and F are the same, I can change this C to F because they're the same, and I'll leave everything else like it was. So I'll keep the plus measure of angle B plus in there, and I'll keep the right side the same. Anybody see some of the same things on both sides of the equal sign? So I'm going to subtract them or cancel them. If I subtract measure of angle D from both sides, those go away. If I subtract the measure of angle F from both sides, those go away. And that leaves me with the measure of angle B equals the measure of angle E, and that's what I wanted to prove. And from now on, when we need to say that, when we're giving a reason, the reason is AA implies AAA. That means we have two triangles, not one triangle. Two sets of angles match up. So then the other set of angles has to match up. So here's an example of the kind of problem you'll be doing that on. When you have one like this, copy the picture down, so copy this picture in your notes right now. Notice they have already labeled one set of angles as congruent. Is there a second set of angles that you can give me a reason why they would have to be congruent? So you look at the picture. What else? What other angles do you know would have to be congruent in that? Cooper? Two angles on the inside. So this is on the inside. This one that you mean? So this one right here.
And then one just next to it on the other side.
And what's your reason that those would be congruent?
Vertical angles.
What do you guys think? Are those vertical angles? So we can say they're congruent, so we're going to mark those on the picture. We can't do one tick mark, that's already been used. So we'll put two tick marks there. Now with what we just proved, we have two sets of angles that match up. So Grazia, what about the third set of angles? This is what we just proved. We have two triangles and two sets of the angles match up. So what do we automatically know about the third set? The third set of angles also has to be congruent. So we can mark those on our picture. But we've already used 1 and 2 tick marks, so now we have to do 3 to be different. And then our reason is going to be AA implies AAA. It's important that you get those marked in there, as you're going to see in this problem. I said this yesterday, but we didn't do an example yet on this. To get the corresponding sides, how do we decide? Does 5 match up with Y? How do we decide what 5 is going to match up with? To write those ratios. Do you remember what I said yesterday? We didn't have an example. Does 5 match up with Y?
No.
You're correct. Why not? What does 5 need to match up with? Those are 5 needs to match up with the X. The way we tell that, and I'm going to do my left triangle, I'm going to do in the top. So I'm going to do the 5 and the 4 and the 3. Doesn't really matter what order I do them in. Those are all from the one on the left. When I start doing what they need to be over to set up these proportions, 5, it's across from 3 tick marks. So in this triangle, what's across from 3 tick marks? The x. So now let's look at the 4. It is across from 1 tick mark. Everybody, in the other triangle, what is across from 1 tick mark?
Y.
The y. 3 is across from 2 tick marks. What's across from 2 tick marks in the other triangle, everyone? So now I use that to solve for x and y. And so let's do 4 over y equals 3 over 5. And then after you've done that, let's do 5 over x equals the 3 over the 5. So we can get both y and x. Morgan, what'd you get for y? Anybody else 20 over 3 for y? So let's see if I can get that. 3y for 1 cross product equals 20. Sure looks like 20 over 3 to me for the y. What about x? What are we coming up with for x? Madeline? So the 3x is 25. Divide both sides. Looks like 25 over 3 to me also. Questions from anybody on this?